Sydney, Australia's largest and most iconic city, is a stunning coastal metropolis that seamlessly blends vibrant urban living with breathtaking natural beauty. Known for its sparkling harbour, golden beaches, and diverse cultural scene, Sydney is a dynamic destination that offers something for everyone. The city's most recognizable landmark is the Sydney Opera House, an architectural marvel with its distinctive sail-like design. Nearby, the Sydney Harbour Bridge offers a stunning backdrop and an exhilarating bridge climb experience for those seeking a panoramic view of the city and its glittering harbour. Circular Quay, the gateway to the harbour, is a lively area filled with ferries, street performers, and stunning waterfront dining. Sydney is home to a range of beautiful beaches, with Bondi Beach being the most famous. Known for its golden sands, excellent surf, and iconic Bondi Icebergs Pool, it's the perfect spot for sunbathing, swimming, or taking the scenic Bondi to Coogee Coastal Walk, which offers breathtaking ocean views. For a more relaxed vibe, head to Manly Beach or the secluded Shaley Beach. Nature and wildlife enthusiasts can explore Taronga Zoo for up-close encounters with native Australian animals, or visit the Royal Botanic Garden, which offers serene green spaces and stunning views of the harbour. Sydney Harbour National Park provides scenic hiking trails, secluded beaches, and the chance to spot dolphins and whales during migration season. Sydney's neighbourhoods each have their own unique charm. The historic Rocks District, with its cobblestone streets, quaint pubs, and weekend markets, is perfect for history lovers. Trendy areas like Surrey Hills, Newtown, and Paddington are filled with boutique shops, art galleries, and a thriving cafe culture. Foodies will delight in Sydney's diverse culinary scene, which reflects the city's multicultural makeup. From fresh seafood at the Sydney Fish Market to innovative dining experiences at award-winning restaurants like Quay and Bennelong, there's something to satisfy every palate. Sydney's warm climate, beautiful surroundings, and cosmopolitan flair make it a year-round destination. Whether you're exploring its iconic landmarks, relaxing on its stunning beaches, or discovering its hidden gems, Sydney captures the spirit of Australia with its blend of natural beauty, outdoor adventures, and urban sophistication. Sydney is the capital city of the state of New South Wales and the most populous city in Australia. Located on Australia's east coast, the metropolis surrounds Sydney Harbour and extends about 80 kilometres 50 mi from the Pacific Ocean in the east to the Blue Mountains in the west, and about 80 kilometres 50 mi from the Ku-ring-gai Chase National Park and the Hawkesbury River in the north and northwest, to the Royal National Park and MacArthur in the south and southwest. Greater Sydney consists of 658 suburbs, spread across 33 local government areas. Residents of the city are colloquially known as Sydneysiders. The estimated population in June 2023 was 5,450,496, which is about 66% of the state's population. The city's nicknames include the Emerald City and the Harbour City. Aboriginal Australians have inhabited the Greater Sydney region for at least 30,000 years, and their engravings and cultural sites are common. The traditional custodians of the land on which modern Sydney stands are the clans of the Darug, Dharmawal, and Eora peoples. During his first Pacific voyage in 1770, James Cook charted the eastern coast of Australia, making landfall at Botany Bay. In 1788, the first fleet of convicts, led by Arthur Phillip, founded Sydney as a British punal colony, the first European settlement in Australia. After World War II, Sydney experienced mass migration, and by 2021 over 40% of the population was born overseas. Foreign countries of birth with the greatest representation are mainland China, India, the United Kingdom, Vietnam, and the Philippines. Despite being one of the most expensive cities in the world, Sydney frequently ranks in the top 10 most livable cities. It is classified as an Alpha Plus city by the Globalization and World Cities Research Network, indicating its influence in the region and throughout the world. Ranked 11th in the world for economic opportunity, Sydney has an advanced market economy with strengths in education, finance, manufacturing, and tourism. The University of Sydney and the University of New South Wales are ranked 18th and 19th in the world respectively. Sydney has hosted major international sporting events such as the 2000 Summer Olympics, the 2003 Rugby World Cup Final, and the 2023 FIFA Women's World Cup Final. The city is among the top 15 most visited, with millions of tourists coming each year to see the city's landmarks. The city has over 1 million ha 2,500,000 acres of nature reserves and parks, and its notable natural features include Sydney Harbour and Royal National Park. The Sydney Harbour Bridge and the World Heritage listed Sydney Opera House are major tourist attractions. Central Station is the hub of Sydney's suburban train, metro and light rail networks and longer distance services. The main passenger airport serving the city is Kingsford Smith Airport, one of the world's oldest continually operating airports. In 1788, Captain Arthur Phillip, the first gunner of New South Wales, named the cove where the first British settlement was established Sydney Cove after Home Secretary Thomas Townshend, 1st Viscount Sydney. The cove was called Warren by the Aboriginal inhabitants. Phillip considered naming the settlement Albion, but this name was never officially used. By 1790, Phillip and other officials were regularly calling the township Sydney. Sydney was declared a city in 1842. The Gadigal-Cadigal clan, whose territory stretches along the southern shore of Port Jackson from South Head to Darling Harbour, are the traditional owners of the land on which the British settlement was initially established, and call their territory Gadi. Aboriginal clan names within the Sydney region were often formed by adding the suffix "gull" to a word denoting the name for their territory, a specific place in their territory, a food source, or totem. Greater Sydney covers the traditional lands of 28 known Aboriginal clans. The first people to inhabit the area now known as Sydney were Aboriginal Australians who had migrated from Southeast Asia via northern Australia. Flaked pebbles found in western Sydney's gravel sediments might indicate human occupation from 45,000 to 50,000 years ago, while radiocarbon dating has shown evidence of human activity in the region from around 30,000 years ago. Prior to the arrival of the British, there were 4,000 to 8,000 Aboriginal people in the Greater Sydney region. The inhabitants subsisted on fishing, hunting, and gathering plants and shellfish. The diet of the coastal clans was more reliant on seafood, whereas hinterland clans ate more forest animals and plants. The clans had distinctive equipment and weapons mostly made of stone, wood, plant materials, bone and shell. They also differed in their body decorations, hairstyles, songs and dances. Aboriginal clans had a rich ceremonial life, part of a belief system centering on ancestral, totemic and supernatural beings. People from different clans and language groups came together to participate in initiation and other ceremonies. These occasions fostered trade, marriages and clan alliances. The earliest British settlers recorded the word Eora as an Aboriginal term meaning either people or from this place. The clans of the Sydney area occupied land with traditional boundaries. There is debate, however, about which group or nation these clans belonged to and the extent of differences in language and rights. The major groups were the coastal Eora people, the Dharug occupying the inland area from Parramatta to the Blue Mountains, and the Dharmwal people south of Botany Bay. Darjanung and Gundungurra languages were spoken on the fringes of the Sydney area. The first meeting between Aboriginals and British explorers occurred on 29 April 1770 when Lieutenant James Cook landed at Botany Bay, Kamai, and encountered the Guigal clan. Two Guigal men opposed the landing party and one was shot and wounded. Cook and his crew stayed at Botany Bay for a week, collecting water, timber, fodder and botanical specimens and exploring the surrounding area. Cook sought to establish relations with the Aboriginal population without success. Britain had been sending convicts to its American colonies for most of the 18th century, and the loss of these colonies in 1783 was the impetus to establish a penal colony at Botany Bay. Proponents of colonization also pointed to the strategic importance of a new base in the Asia-Pacific region and its potential to provide much-needed timber and flax for the Navy. The first fleet of 11 ships under the command of Captain Arthur Phillip arrived in Botany Bay in January 1788. It comprised more than 1,000 settlers, including 736 convicts. The fleet soon moved to the more suitable Port Jackson, where a settlement was established at Sydney Cove on 26 January 1788. The colony of New South Wales was formally proclaimed by Governor Phillip on 7 February 1788. Sydney Cove offered a fresh water supply and a safe harbour, which Phillip described as the finest harbour in the world. Here 1,000 sail of the line may ride in the most perfect security. The settlement was planned to be a self-sufficient penal colony based on subsistence agriculture. Trade and shipbuilding were banned in order to keep the convicts isolated. However, the soil around the settlement proved poor and the first crops failed, leading to several years of hunger and strict rationing. The food crisis was relieved with the arrival of the Second Fleet in mid-1790 and the Third Fleet in 1791. Former convicts received small grants of land, and government and private farms spread to the more fertile lands around Parramatta, Windsor and Camden on the Cumberland Plain. By 1804, the colony was self-sufficient in food. A smallpox epidemic in April 1789 killed about half the region's indigenous population. In November 1790, Bennelong led a group of survivors of the Sydney clans into the settlement, establishing a continuous presence of Aboriginal Australians in settled Sydney. Phillip had been given no instructions for urban development, but in July 1788 submitted a plan for the new town at Sydney Cove. It included a wide central avenue, a permanent government house, law courts, hospital and other public buildings, but no provision for warehouse, shops, or other commercial buildings. Phillip promptly ignored his own plan, and unplanned development became a feature of Sydney's topography. After Phillip's departure in December 1792, the colony's military officers began acquiring land and importing consumer goods from visiting ships. Former convicts engaged in trade and opened small businesses. Soldiers and former convicts built houses on Crown land, with or without official permission, in what was now commonly called Sydney Town. Governor William Bligh 1806-08 imposed restrictions on commerce and ordered the demolition of buildings erected on Crown land, including some owned by past and serving military officers. The resulting conflict culminated in the Rum Rebellion of 1808, in which Bligh was deposed by the New South Wales Corps. Governor Lucan Macquarie 1810-1821 played a leading role in the development of Sydney and New South Wales, establishing a bank, a currency and a hospital. He employed a planner to design the street layout of Sydney and commissioned the construction of roads, wharves, churches, and public buildings. Parramatta Road, linking Sydney and Parramatta, was opened in 1811, and a road across the Blue Mountains was completed in 1815, opening the way for large-scale farming and grazing west of the Great Dividing Range. Following the departure of Macquarie, official policy encouraged the emigration of free British settlers to New South Wales. Immigration to the colony increased from 900 free settlers in 1826-30 to 29,000 in 1836-40, many of whom settled in Sydney. By the 1840s, Sydney exhibited a geographic divide between poor and working-class residents living west of the Tank Stream in areas such as the Rocks, and the more affluent residents living to its east. Free settlers, free-born residents and former convicts now represented the vast majority of the population of Sydney, leading to increasing public agitation for responsible government and an end to transportation. Transportation to New South Wales ceased in 1840. In 1804, Irish convicts led around 300 rebels in the Castle Hill Rebellion, an attempt to march on Sydney, commandeer a ship, and sail to freedom. Poorly armed, and with their leader Philip Cunningham captured, the main body of insurgents were routed by about 100 troops and volunteers at Rouse Hill. At least 39 convicts were killed in the uprising and subsequent executions. As the colony spread to the more fertile lands around the Hawkesbury River, northwest of Sydney, conflict between the settlers and the Darug people intensified, reaching a peak from 1794 to 1810. Bands of Darug people, led by Pemulwai and later by his son Tedbury, burnt crops, killed livestock and raided settler stores in a pattern of resistance that was to be repeated as the colonial frontier expanded. A military garrison was established on the Hawkesbury in 1795. The death toll from 1794 to 1800 was 26 settlers and up to 200 Darug. Conflict again erupted from 1814 to 1816 with the expansion of the colony into Dharmawal country in the Nepean region southwest of Sydney. Following the deaths of several settlers, Governor Macquarie dispatched 3 military detachments into Dharmawal lands, culminating in the Uppin massacre April 1816 in which at least 14 Aboriginal people were killed. The New South Wales Legislative Council became a semi-elected body in 1842. Sydney was declared a city the same year, and a gunning council established, elected on a restrictive property franchise. The discovery of gold in New South Wales and Victoria in 1851 initially caused economic disruption as men moved to the gold fields. Melbourne soon overtook Sydney as Australia's largest city, leading to an enduring rivalry between the two. However, increased immigration from overseas and wealth from gold exports increased demand for housing, consumer goods, services and urban amenities. The New South Wales government also stimulated growth by investing heavily in railways, trams, roads, ports, telegraph, schools and urban services. The population of Sydney and its suburbs grew from 95,600 in 1861 to 386,900 in 1891. The city developed many of its characteristic features. The growing population packed into rows of terrace houses in narrow streets. New public buildings of sandstone abounded, including at the University of Sydney 1854-61, the Australian Museum 1858-66, the Town Hall 1868-88, and the General Post Office 1866-92. Elaborate coffee palaces and hotels were erected. Daylight bathing at Sydney's beaches was banned, but segregated bathing at designated ocean baths was popular. Drought, the winding down of public works and a financial crisis led to economic depression in Sydney throughout most of the 1890s. Meanwhile, the Sydney-based Premier of New South Wales, George Reid, became a key figure in the process of federation. When the 6 colonies federated on 1 January 1901, Sydney became the capital of the state of New South Wales. The spread of bubonic plague in 1900 prompted the state government to modernize the wharves and demolish inner city slums. The outbreak of the First World War in 1914 saw more Sydney males volunteer for the armed forces than the Commonwealth authorities could process, and helped reduce unemployment. Those returning from the war in 1918 were promised homes fit for heroes in new suburbs such as Daceyville and Matraville. Garden suburbs and mixed industrial and residential developments also grew along the rail and tram corridors. The population reached 1 million in 1926, after Sydney had regained its position as the most populous city in Australia. The government created jobs with massive public projects such as the electrification of the Sydney rail network and building the Sydney Harbour Bridge. Sydney was more severely affected by the Great Depression of the 1930s than regional New South Wales or Melbourne. New building almost came to a standstill, and by 1933 the unemployment rate for male workers was 28%, but over 40% in working-class areas such as Alexandria and Redfern. Many families were evicted from their homes and shanty towns grew along coastal Sydney and Botany Bay, the largest being Happy Valley at La Perouse. The Depression also exacerbated political divisions. In March 1932, when populist Labour Premier Jack Lang attempted to open the Sydney Harbour Bridge, he was upstaged by Francis D. Groot of the far-right New Guard, who slashed the ribbon with a sabre. In January 1938, Sydney celebrated the Empire Games and the sesquicentenary of European settlement in Australia. One journalist wrote, "Golden beaches, sun-tanned men and maidens, red-roofed villas terraced above the blue waters of the harbour. Even Melbourne seems like some grey and stately city of northern Europe compared with Sydney's subtropical splendours." A Congress of the Aborigines of Australia declared 26 January a day of mourning for the white man Caesar of our country. With the outbreak of Second World War in 1939, Sydney experienced a surge in industrial development. Unemployment virtually disappeared and women moved into jobs previously typically reserved for males. Sydney was attacked by Japanese submarines in May and June 1942 with 21 killed. Households built air raid shelters and performed drills. Military establishments in response to World War II in Australia included the Garden Island Tunnel System, the only tunnel warfare complex in Sydney, and the heritage-listed military fortification systems Bradley's Head Fortification Complex and Middle Head Fortifications, which were part of a total defence system for Sydney Harbour. A post-war immigration and baby boom saw a rapid increase in Sydney's population and the spread of low-density housing in suburbs throughout the Cumberland Plain. Immigrants, mostly from Britain and continental Europe, and their children accounted for over 3/4 of Sydney's population growth between 1947 and 1971. The newly created Cumberland County Council oversaw low-density residential developments, the largest at Green Valley and Mount Druitt. Older residential centres such as Parramatta, Bankstown and Liverpool became suburbs of the metropolis. Manufacturing, protected by high tariffs, employed over a third of the workforce from 1945 to the 1960s. However, as the long post-war economic boom progressed, retail and other service industries became the main source of new jobs. An estimated 1 million onlookers, most of the city's population, watched Queen Elizabeth II land in 1954 at Farm Cove, where Captain Phillip had raised the Union Jack 165 years earlier, commencing her Australian royal tour. It was the first time a reigning monarch stepped onto Australian soil. Increasing high-rise development in Sydney and the expansion of suburbs beyond the Green Belt envisaged by the planners of the 1950s resulted in community protests. In the early 1970s, trade unions and resident action groups imposed green bans on development projects in historic areas such as the Rocks. Federal, state and local governments introduced heritage and environmental legislation. The Sydney Opera House was also controversial for its cost and disputes between architect J.R.N. Utzon and government officials. However, soon after it opened in 1973, it became a major tourist attraction and symbol of the city. The progressive reduction in tariff protection from 1974 began the transformation of Sydney from a manufacturing centre to a world city. From the 1980s, overseas immigration grew rapidly, with Asia, the Middle East and Africa becoming major sources. By 2021, the population of Sydney was over 5.2 million, with 40% of the population born overseas. China and India overtook England as the largest source countries for overseas-born residents. Sydney is a coastal basin with the Tasman Sea to the east, the Blue Mountains to the west, the Hawkesbury River to the north, and the Woronora Plateau to the south. Sydney spans two geographic regions. The Cumberland Plain lies to the south and west of the harbour and is relatively flat. The Hornsby Plateau is located to the north and is dissected by steep valleys. The flat areas of the south were the first to be developed. It was not until the construction of the Sydney Harbour Bridge that the northern reaches became more heavily populated. 70 surf beaches can be found along its coastline, with Bondi Beach being the most famous. The Nepean River wraps around the western edge of the city and becomes the Hawkesbury River before reaching Broken Bay. Most of Sydney's water storages can be found on tributaries of the Nepean River. The Parramatta River is mostly industrial and drains a large area of Sydney's western suburbs into Port Jackson. The southern parts of the city are drained by the Georges River and the Cooks River into Botany Bay. There is no single definition of the boundaries of Sydney. The Australian Statistical Geography Standard definition of Greater Sydney covers 12,369 kilometres 4,776 sqmi and includes the local government areas of Central Coast in the north, Hawkesbury in the northwest, Blue Mountains in the west, Sutherland Shire in the south, and Wollondally in the southwest. The local government area of the city of Sydney covers about 26 square kilometres from Garden Island in the east to Bicentennial Park in the west, and south to the suburbs of Alexandria and Rosebery. Sydney is made up of mostly Triassic rock with some recent igneous dikes and volcanic necks typically found in the Prospect Dolerite intrusion west of Sydney. The Sydney Basin was formed in the early Triassic period. The sand that was to become the sandstone of today was laid down between 360 and 200 million years ago. The sandstone has shale lenses and fossil riverbeds. The Sydney Basin bioregion includes coastal features of cliffs, beaches, and estuaries. Deep river valleys known as rias were carved during the Triassic period in the Hawkesbury sandstone of the coastal region. The rising sea level between 18,000 and 6,000 years ago flooded the rias to form estuaries and deep harbours. Port Jackson, better known as Sydney Harbour, is one such ria. Sydney features two major soil types, sandy soils which originate from the Hawkesbury sandstone and clay which are from shales and volcanic rocks, though some soils may be a mixture of the two. Directly overlying the older Hawkesbury sandstone is the Viana Matta Shale, a geological feature found in western Sydney that was deposited in connection with a large river delta during the Middle Triassic. The Viana Matta Shale generally comprises fine-grained sedimentary rocks such as shales, mudstones, ironstones, siltstones and lamanites, with less common sandstone units. The Viana Matta group is made up of Bringelly Shale, Minchinbury Sandstone and Ashfield Shale. Under the Koppen Jigger classification, Sydney has a humid subtropical climate with warm, sometimes hot, summers and generally mild to cool winters. The El Nano, Southern Oscillation, the Indian Ocean Dipole and the Southern Annular Mode play an important role in determining Sydney's weather patterns, drought and bushfire on the one hand, and storms and flooding on the other, associated with the opposite phases of the oscillation in Australia. The weather is moderated by proximity to the ocean, and more extreme temperatures are recorded in the inland western suburbs because Sydney CBD is more affected by the oceanic climate drivers than the western suburbs. At Sydney's primary weather station at Observatory Hill, extreme temperatures have ranged from 45.8 degrees Celsius (114.4 degrees Fahrenheit) on 18th January 2013 to 2.1 degrees Celsius (35.8 degrees Fahrenheit) on 22nd June 1932. An average of 9 days a year have temperatures at or above 30 degrees Celsius (86 degrees Fahrenheit) in the Central Business District. In contrast, the metropolitan area averages between 35 and 65 days, depending on the suburb. The hottest day in the metropolitan area occurred in Penrith on 4th January 2020, where a high of 48.9 degrees Celsius (120.0 degrees Fahrenheit) was recorded. The average annual temperature of the sea ranges from 18.5 degrees Celsius (65.3 degrees Fahrenheit) in September to 23.7 degrees Celsius (74.7 degrees Fahrenheit) in February. Sydney has an average of 7.2 hours of sunshine per day and 109.5 clear days annually. Due to the inland location, frost is recorded early in the morning in western Sydney a few times in winter. Autumn and spring are the transitional seasons, with spring showing a larger temperature variation than autumn. Sydney experiences an urban heat island effect. This makes certain parts of the city more vulnerable to extreme heat, including coastal suburbs. In late spring and summer, temperatures over 35 degrees Celsius (95 degrees Fahrenheit) are not uncommon, though hot, dry conditions are usually ended by a southerly buster, a powerful southerly that brings gale winds and a rapid fall in temperature. Since Sydney is downwind of the Great Dividing Range, it occasionally experiences dry, westerly Foyhan winds typically in winter and early spring, which are the reason for its warm maximum temperatures. Westerly winds are intense when the roaring 40s or the southern annular mode shift towards southeastern Australia, where they may damage homes and affect flights, in addition to making the temperature seem colder than it actually is. Rainfall has a moderate to low variability and has historically been fairly uniform throughout the year, although in recent years it has been more summer-dominant and erratic. Precipitation is usually higher in summer through to autumn and lower in late winter to early spring. In late autumn and winter, east coast lows may bring large amounts of rainfall, especially in the warm season. Black nor'easters are usually the cause of heavy rain events, though other forms of low-pressure areas, including remnants of ex-cyclones, may also bring heavy deluge and afternoon thunderstorms. Snow was last alleged in 1836, more than likely a fall of graupel, or soft hail, and in July 2008 the upper North Shore saw a fall of graupel that was mistaken by many for snow. In 2009, dry conditions brought a severe dust storm towards the city. The earliest structures in the colony were built to the bare minimum of standards. Governor Macquarie set ambitious targets for the design of new construction projects. The city now has a World Heritage listed building, several National Heritage listed buildings, and dozens of Commonwealth Heritage listed buildings as evidence of the survival of Macquarie's ideals. In 1814, the governor called on a convict named Francis Greenway to design Macquarie Lighthouse. The lighthouse's classical design earned Greenway a pardon from Macquarie in 1818 and introduced a culture of refined architecture that remains to this day. Greenway went on to design the Hyde Park Barracks in 1819 and the Georgian-style St. James's Church in 1824. Gothic-inspired architecture became more popular from the 1830s. John Verger's Elizabeth Bay House and St. Philip's Church of 1856 were built in Gothic Revival style along with Edward Blore's Government House of 1845. Kirribilli House, completed in 1858, and St. Andrew's Cathedral, Australia's oldest cathedral, are rare examples of Victorian Gothic construction. From the late 1850s there was a shift towards classical architecture. Mortimer Lewis designed the Australian Museum in 1857. The General Post Office, completed in 1891 in Victorian Free Classical style, was designed by James Barnett. Barnett also oversaw the 1883 reconstruction of Greenway's Macquarie Lighthouse. Customs House was built in 1844. The neoclassical and French Second Empire style town hall was completed in 1889. Romanesque designs gained favor from the early 1890s. Sydney Technical College was completed in 1893 using both Romanesque Revival and Queen Anne approaches. The Queen Victoria building was designed in Romanesque Revival fashion by George Muckray, completed in 1898. It accommodates 200 shops across its 3 stories. As the wealth of the settlement increased and Sydney developed into a metropolis after Federation in 1901, its buildings became taller. Sydney's first tower was Kalwala Chambers, which topped out at 50 meters 160 feet, making 12 floors. The Commercial Travellers Club, built in 1908, was of similar height at 10 floors. It was built in a brickstone veneer and demolished in 1972. This heralded a change in Sydney's cityscape, and with the lifting of height restrictions in the 1960s there came a surge of high-rise construction. The Great Depression had a tangible influence on Sydney's architecture. New structures became more restrained with far less ornamentation. The most notable architectural feat of this period is the Harbour Bridge. Its steel arch was designed by John Bradfield and completed in 1932. A total of 39,000 tons of structural steel span the 503 meters 1,650 feet between Milsons Point and Dawes Point. Modern and international architecture came to Sydney from the 1940s. Since its completion in 1973, the city's Opera House has become a World Heritage Site and one of the world's most renowned pieces of modern design. J.R.N. Utzon was awarded the Pritzker Prize in 2003 for his work on the Opera House. Sydney is home to Australia's first building by renowned Canadian-American architect Frank Gehry, the Dr. Chow Chuk Wing Building 2015. An entrance from the goods line, a pedestrian pathway and former railway line, is located on the eastern border of the site. Contemporary buildings in the CBD include Citigroup Centre, Aurora Place, Chifley Tower, the Reserve Bank Building, Deutsche Bank Place, MLC Centre, and Capita Centre. The tallest structure is Sydney Tower, designed by Donald Crone and completed in 1981. Due to the proximity of Sydney Airport, a maximum height restriction was imposed, now sitting at 330 meters 1083 feet. Green bands and heritage overlays have been in place since at least 1977 to protect Sydney's heritage after controversial demolitions in the 1970s. Researchers from Loughborough University have ranked Sydney amongst the top 10 world cities that are highly integrated into the global economy. The Global Economic Power Index ranks Sydney 11th in the world. The Global Cities Index recognizes it as 14th in the world based on global engagement. There is a significant concentration of foreign banks and multinational corporations in Sydney, and the city is promoted as Australia's financial capital and one of Asia Pacific's leading financial hubs. The prevailing economic theory during early colonial days was mercantilism, as it was throughout most of Western Europe. The economy struggled at first due to difficulties in cultivating the land and the lack of a stable monetary system. Garner Macquarie created 2 coins from every Spanish silver dollar in circulation. The economy was capitalist in nature by the 1840s as the proportion of free settlers increased, the maritime and wool industries flourished, and the powers of the East India Company were curtailed. Wheat, gold, and other minerals became export industries towards the end of the 1800s. Significant capital began to flow into the city from the 1870s to finance roads, railways, bridges, docks, courthouses, schools and hospitals. Protectionist policies after Federation allowed for the creation of a manufacturing industry which became the city's largest employer by the 1920s. These same policies helped to relieve the effects of the Great Depression, during which the unemployment rate in New South Wales reached as high as 32%. From the 1960s onwards, Parramatta gained recognition as the city's second CBD, and finance and tourism became major industries and sources of employment. Sydney's nominal gross domestic product was $400.9 billion and 80,000 Australian dollar per capita in 2015. Its gross domestic product was 337 billion Australian dollars in 2013, the largest in Australia. The financial and insurance services industry accounts for 18.1% of gross product, ahead of professional services with 9% and manufacturing with 7.2%. The creative and technology sectors are also focus industries for the City of Sydney and represented 9% and 11% of its economic output in 2012.